This is the first video of my long look at Guilds of Ravnica. I wouldn't consider it a review. I don't think I'm expert enough at Magic to deem myself worthy of a review. Still my opinion on the cards. I like to look through the cards and then maybe think about what kind of builds I'd like to build. A couple of these videos are really were filmed after in the cycle because the first batch, a couple of the videos, for some reason didn't have audio and I had to delete them from YouTube and then, or partly missing audio. So I'm going to make sure that every single video has full audio. And this one's going to be one of them. This is the first one in the series, even if it's like one of the last ones made with my voice. So in the non-guild specific video, this is one of them. In this one, I'm going to talk only about the white cards and the blue cards. And towards the end, I'm going to have a chance to go through the green cards and the artifacts. Chromatic Lantern is a reprint from Ravnica 2, and it's pretty good. For 3, you drop it. When you tap it, you can add 1 mana of any color. It's great for splashing a third or a fourth color, which I think is going to be a lot of fun in Guilds of Ravnica. Either sealed, limited, or also when you mix it in with all the other cards currently in standard. So when we look at the white cards, these are some of the common cards. The guard is a bear otherwise, and also it's got that when it enters the battlefield, it gives a +1 butt to another creature. That's nice. I mean, it's sometimes you just need a bear, especially in limited, and it'll do that job. Take Heart is a battle trick. Will give a specific creature +2/+2. The gain life part, I don't think it's that great, except if you're really in the gain life deck that came out of M19, especially with the Johnny Sprite mate. In that case, yeah, definitely this card is going to be added to that card. The companions, I think it's a little heavy for getting tokens. You pay 3 and you get 2 1/1s. I would have liked it if it had been, like, say, 3 for 3 or 2 for 2. Still, it's pretty good, and they have lifelink, so that's not a bad thing. And then the Scout, 2/2/1. When it attacks, you may pay one white, and it gains flying if you do. So that's fine. These are mostly aimed at limited. The Righteous Blow deals 2 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. It's an instant. It's only a 1-drop. It's for when your opponent does something that you weren't expecting, and all of a sudden you're blocking and you're going to lose a creature. This can tip the scales. One of your standard limited battle tricks. Luminous Bounds is a lot like a pacifism. It's exactly like pacifism. It just costs 1 more. Instead of 1 white, it's 2 white. We're in the Battle Cruiser era. A couple of the types of spells have been costed with 1 more mana, sometimes 2 more mana. Usually just 1. That's okay. It's part of the slowing down the game, which I'm okay with. The Pack Beast is a 5/3/3 with Vigilance. And then you can tap 2 creatures, up to 2 creatures your opponent controls. That's great in Two-Headed Giant. It's great in multiple formats in a very casual way. I mean, you've got better things to do with 5 mana than to cast this. But be that as it may, if you're in a limited environment, it'll come in handy. It's still a 5/3/3 with Vigilance, and it'll prevent 2 of your opponent's creatures from blocking. Then Hunted Witness is actually the better one of the lot, in my opinion, because it replaces itself. So it's a 1/1, and when it dies, it leaves behind a token, a 1/1 token. That's really good. I think that's a very good card. The Hawk flies, and it's got lifelink. It's already a 1/1/1. I think it's a very good common. I really like it a lot. I can see it in many types of decks. Then the Color the Culprit. It's a 4-drop. Destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater. That's great. You got a big threat. Maybe in the middle of combat, somebody boosted something and it becomes bigger. Boom, you whack it. That's not bad in a limited setting. Then the Vigil is a 4-drop. You enchant the creature, give it +3/+2 vigilance. I mean, usually I want to use that slot for something better, but in limited, sometimes you don't have that choice. The Charger is a flyer. It's a 3/1/3. And when it attacks, you can give flying to another creature. I think we have something like this already in Dominaria. It's nice to have a second one. That's not bad. The unicorn is a 4/2/2, and when it attacks, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So it buffs your entire army, and that can come in handy. Yeah. The marshal is already a 1/1/1, so it's good. And then whenever it and at least 2 other creatures attack, you get a token. You still have to have a little bit of an army, so it takes some work. Token has lifelink, that's not bad. Geared for battle, and the Dudettes are dressed in Boros gear. A lot of these cards are dressed in Boros gear, which sort of tells you where they would be best placed. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. It's a sorcery, so you got to do it, and your opponent knows it, and it's before combat phase or after. Demotion has already a Boros uniform thingy. So when you enchant creature, it cannot block, but it can still attack. The activator abilities are not activated, but yeah, that's pretty good. It's a 1-drop. It doesn't have flash, so you have to drop it during your sorcery, during your end steps as sorceries are casted. Still, it's all right. Contraband, Crush Contraband for 4-drop. It mixes things. Can exile target artifact or exile target enchantment, one or both. It's a little heavy, but it is very effective. Exiling is exiling. And so even though exile effects tend to be costed a little heavier, that's great. I mean, I would, you know, it's a good card. Exiling is good. Dawn of Hope. It's one of those cards with beautiful artwork that make me want Magic to be like Force of Will and have full arts. I think a full art of this beautiful artwork would make the card look better. I've said this in other videos that I've made that, you know, it'd be really nice. I know there's a lot of history in Magic, millions of players. They're really emotional about keeping this frame that reminds them of all the other cards that they have ever played. I personally would love to see Magic have a full art frame someday, and then these cards with beautiful artwork would look really cool instead of just the artwork being so small. Divine Visitation is pretty good. I think at least as a casual player, I would say it's really good. It could even be better than that. Comes in a little late. 5-drop enchantments have a hard time being competitive, you know, in competitive decks. But it's really good because whenever you're generating tokens, whatever tokens you're generating actually become 4/4 flying angels. That is fantastic. And they have vigilance too. Great. So I love to play this card. It's mythic rare. I think it's probably going to be a junk mythic rare, and I love to play it in a casual setting. I think it's a great card. Then Citywide Bust. Destroy all creatures with toughness 4 or greater. It's one of these crippled board wipes that are common these days. Battle Cruiser. Still alright. I mean, it's a 3-drop, and it's going to be able to get rid of all your opponent's bigger threats. You know, so whatever they have that's big, that doesn't have hexproof, it's going to be taken out by this, so that can be really good. Yeah. Bounty Agent, 2-drop, bear, vigilance. You tap it, sack it, you destroy target legendary permanent that's an artifact, creature, or enchantment. This is really a Dominaria hoser, and that makes sense to sell a new set. When you're trying to sell a new set, you want to hose the previous sets. So you will find in Guilds of Ravnica things that hose tribal strategies like you find in Ixalan, and then legendary things and artifacts, but especially legendary from Dominaria. Then we're off to blue, so we already talked about white, and we're going to do white and blue in this video. The video it replaces only did white because I got interrupted this morning a bunch of times when I was filming, but if I'm able to get the audio to work for this whole video, it's going to be white and blue. The Crab is a 4/5 vanilla meant for limited. The Mist is a 2/5 defender. It doesn't have flying. It doesn't have any other special conditions. That's kind of a shame. But, you know, if you need a wall. Arcadis, the banned white, green, blue deck from M19. May need a few other walls that it didn't have. Other than that, it doesn't fly, and I don't like that about. I really love walls to fly, to have flying. Mesmerist, 2/1. When it attacks, it can slow down another creature. It doesn't. It loses 2 of power. For your limited tricks, the Adept, the 2/3's got a fat butt. For 2 blue, target creature can't be blocked this turn. It's multiples, so if you have 2 blue and 2 blue, you can take 2 separate creatures that can become unblockable. I think that can be really strong. It's not only a great limited trick, but I would even see it, I don't know, I put this in a commander deck, in a casual commander deck. Why not? Then Muse Drake is a 4/1/3 flyer, and it draws you a card when it enters, which I think is really great. Again, yet another card that's mostly going to get play in limited. It doesn't hit for much. It costs 4. It does have flying. It does draw you a card. It's alright. Leapfrog is a 3/3/1. It's got flying as long as you cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn. In the instant and sorcery spells deck that comes out of Izzet, for example, this card is great because you're going to be doing that. And so you really have a 3/3/1 flyer. That's cool. The Devious Cover-Up, 4-drop counter spell. And if it's countered, you exile it instead of putting it into the graveyard. And you may shuffle up to 4 target cards from your graveyard into your library, and that's really nice. I mean, in the case of jumpstart cards that end in your graveyard, you exile them when you use them for the second time, so you don't want to do that to those cards. But maybe in Dimir, when you're surveilling and you end up dropping things in the graveyard, maybe you've used them once and they don't have jumpstart, and you want to reuse them, that's a way to reuse them. Sure. The Disdainful Stroke, 2-drop counter spell, convert a mana cost 4 or greater. So all of your big threats. That's good, and it's aggressively costed. The Sphere, as a 4-drop, it'll tap the creature and won't let it untap it. It's a little heavy. It's a good limited trick, I think. Nothing more than that. Selective Snare is a bouncer, so returns creatures, but they have to be of a specific creature type. So these are excellent tribal holsters is what this card is. The Mystic is a 3 blue 1/5, and it gives you tokens whenever you cast an instant or sorcery. Doesn't attack for much, so it's going to sit there and generate tokens. And then maybe you can figure a way to buff them all. Yeah, that's alright. Yeah, sure. The Guild Summit I really like. I really like this card because it was a guild themed deck, you know, a fun casual deck in Ravnica 2, in Return to Ravnica block. And these cards get added to those cards for an even more fun casual deck. The same thing happened with Curses. I think Amonkhet block had curses that added to the curses in the original Innistrad. So the same here with the these Guild Gate Matters cards, and I really like this one. For all of 2 blue, when it enters the battlefield, you may tap any number of untapped gates, and you draw a card for each one. So if you drop this for 3. Of course, it's going to force you to drop it later than you otherwise would. So you drop it when you drop it for 3 and you have 2 gates that you can tap also. On top of that, you draw 2 cards. And then whenever future gates come in, you draw a card every time you play one. I think that's fantastic. For a casual game, I would love to play it. The Adept is a 5/3/4. It's a little heavy, but for 2 blue and you tap it, you can cast anything that's an instant or a sorcery card. That can be Omniscience. I know it's pronounced otherwise, but I pronounce it as Omniscience. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure I'm wrong. So that can be anything, but you still are dropping it as a 5/3/4. Pretty late game. This is more like a casual thing you're going to do. I don't think in a competitive setting you're going to be able to wait as long. But yeah, sure. You drop it for 5 on turn 5, and then on turn 6, you hit the 2 blue and you tap it and you drop something incredible. I'd love to do that. Why not? Then the Drowned Secrets is a 2-drop enchantment. Obviously, if you're a mono blue, it's going to be maximized. Whenever you cast a blue spell, target player puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. You may want to use it to mill your opponent. You may want to use it to self-mill. Of course, in Surveil, if you do like a Muldrotha thing, which I really want to do, where you combine Dimir cards and Golgari cards, you may want to do a little bit of self-milling. This card will do it. There's a couple of milling cards in M19, so if you want to do a casual mill deck where you're milling your opponent, you can also do that. Narcomoeba is a classic reprint. It's a card that's being used in Dredge. Dredge being an ability that came out of Ravnica 1, where you basically play all your cards out of your graveyard, you discard a ton, and then everything gets triggered and comes out of your graveyard. There's 2 versions of Dredge. There's Dredge where you actually have mana cards and you cast cards with mana. And then there's something called Manaless Dredge, where you don't have any mana in the deck. You just discard everything. And then the cards trigger themselves onto the battlefield. So, for example, Narcomoeba would be one of them, because when it's put into the graveyard from your library, you put it onto the battlefield. So it's a free cast. It's only a 2/1/1 flyer, but it's still going to be a free cast. And here's the original artwork. I think it's from Future Sight. I don't remember exactly what if that symbol is Future Sight. Yeah, I think it is. I'm not sure. Child of Night, I think, is a reprint. It's been in a gazillion core sets. I love the original artwork. This artwork is okay. I like the older artwork more. 2/1 lifelink. We've played it. I mean, if you've been playing Magic, you've played this card before from the core sets that it's been in. The Rat, when it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. I think this would be great. The more opponents you have, the more discard that's going to generate. It's only a 2/1/1. It's only a 1/1, but the ETB is pretty good. Then 4/3/1 flyer Bats is aggro. I would play it. I mean, when you need a flyer in limited, it would work in limited. Vicious Rumors, yet another card that makes me wish Wizards went the full art route, because I mean, this artwork is fantastic. I love the artwork. It would look amazing as a full art. It's one of these pingers that I'm not sure is going to be great, but it's got multiple things that it's doing. It's not just pinging. So, okay, so you play it as a sorcery, deals 1 damage to each opponent. If you have 2 opponents, hits them both. If you got 3 opponents, hits 3 people, so it deals really 1, 2, 3 damage. Then each one of those opponents discards a card and then puts the top card of their library into their graveyard, and you gain 1 life. You can gain 1, 2, 3 life. You can cost 1, 2, 3 discards. You have to be careful in the mirror game when one of those opponents is also on a graveyard strategy. That's just something you need to be ready for. So you need to be able to do something about people's graveyards and protect your own. Yeah. The Shade gets +1/+1 until end of turn with 1 black, and it's a 3/2. It's fine. I mean, it can get pumped massively, but you know, it's going to get harder to pump because somebody's going to remove it. It's going to want to remove it. The Centipede, I love the artwork. I wish it had. Maybe they would have painted a human into the picture. Maybe the human would have been as tall as, say, maybe one of its legs. I mean, you can't really tell how big it really could be. Maybe if I zoomed into the artwork with a scanner. Either way, I love the artwork. It looks great. It's a 3/3/2. When it dies, you put a +1/+1 counter on one of your other creatures. Yeah, it's not bad. Sever Strands. You sack a creature in order to cast this. You gain life equal to the creature's toughness. I don't think that's great. The other clause is the one that I really like. Destroy target creature an opponent controls. You sack one of your creatures, you kill one of their creatures for 1 black. Get a little life back. It's not bad. I love the artwork. The Poisoner has Death Touch, and it's a 1/1/1. There's nothing else to say except that it's great. Death Touch, I think, is a great stall strategy. It does not delay the inevitable of losing like lifelink gain life does. It delays to give you more time to do something good, in my opinion. Then Dowser of Light's 545 vanilla. It is what it is. Dead weight. It was printed also in Innistrad, and I do not know for a fact if that was the first time that it had been issued. I love the artwork from Innistrad. I like this artwork too. I used to play it a lot when I was a new player. I wouldn't play this kind of card so much now because, yes, it's only a 1 cost, but it does very little for you. Never happened. Love the title. 3-drop. Look at somebody's hand. Choose an online card from that. So they reveal their hand, and you choose an online card from either the graveyard or the hand, and you exile it. I like that. You know, it gives you multiple choices. You can either go to their graveyard or their hand and you exile it. I think it's worth it. I mean, everyone likes the 1 and 2-drop spells for looking at people's hands. This one is a 3-drop, but you get to exile, and that can be really good. Then the Necrolisk is a zombie, 4/3/3. It's also a lizard, but I really like that it's a zombie. And I like it when an ability only costs 1, especially if you can do it multiple times. Yes, you can only activate it once. You could cast a sorcery, so at the beginning, at your end steps. But the beginning step and the end step. So you sack another creature, you put a counter on this one, and it gains menace. Of course, you sack 2 creatures, it's going to gain menace only once. But it is going to get 2 counters. 4/3/3. It doesn't fly. It doesn't have death touch. It's there. Plaguecrafter is a 3/3/2. And when it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or a planeswalker. And each player who can't discards a card. If you're already on a discard strategy, yeah, you could be bare. You have no creatures and no planeswalkers. You discard something. That's fine. Most of the time, you're going to have a creature. I wouldn't get to the point where I only have a planeswalker. And hardly ever is your opponent going to only have a planeswalker. I mean, that would only work if before you play this, you'd already taken out. Say that person has 2 creatures and you take out both of their creatures. Then you play this and they have to sacrifice their planeswalker. That's a rare event. It is still, I think, a good card. It at least, you know, thins out your opponent. And it's each player, so in multiplayer, it does it for every one of the players that are your opponents. I think that's really good. It also includes you, but again, if you're playing it, you better have a strategy for making sure that the downside is not a downside. It could even be an upside. Otherwise, it's just a 3/3/2. It doesn't fly. It doesn't have death touch. It doesn't have anything else. The Imp is a 1/1/1 flyer. Stop there. That's already pretty good. And then you can sack it after you tap it for 1 black. And then you look at your opponent's hand. And you choose the non-land card. And they discard it. And you activate this during sorcery. Whenever you cast a sorcery. That's fine. Then the Swarm is a 5/4/1 flyer. You pay 2 black, you discard a creature card, and you can return it from your graveyard to your hand. That's good, except it's already a 5-drop. It's a little heavy. I think the effect of doing something and getting something from your graveyard works a lot better with a 2-drop or a 1-drop. Still, it's alright. You can get it out of your graveyard. That's always nice. Then the Creeping Chill, 4-drop, hits for 3, gains you 3. So it displaces you by 6 points. Okay? Effectively with each opponent. Yeah, because it deals the 3 damage to each opponent and it gives you the 3 life. Yeah, that's great. Even for 4. And if you want to not do that, when you are, say, doing Surveil and you drop this from your library into your graveyard, you get to do the hit without having to cast it. I think it's a great card. Ritual of Suit is a 4-drop board wipe. It only works for anything that's CMC 3 or less creatures. Yeah, I mean, you know, it comes in pretty early. 4-drop is good, so I think it's good. Yeah, it can do a lot of damage. I mean, uh, in Two-Headed Giant, it'll take out both people's creatures that are CMC 3 or less. And it's early game. They probably wouldn't have dropped that many great big critters, so it can really slow down the game for your opponents. I like it. The Reaper is a 3/3/2, and whenever a non-token creature you control dies, it deals 1 damage to you and you draw a card. So this is one of those many variants on Dark Confidant. Dark Confidant is only a white-black, 1 black instead of 2 black, but it can kill you because it hits you for the total CMC of the card you drew. This one is limited to, you know, it's got a couple of hoops you have to jump through that Dark Confidant doesn't have. So you have to have a non-token creature of yours die. Then when it dies, then something happens. You draw a card. That's great. You get hit for 1. That's a very small hit. I love this card. I think it's really good. For some reason, cards that are named a Menagerie I like. There was a Menagerie green card in Hour of Devastation that I love. It was one of these cast a bunch of green critters cards. This one I also really like. For 5, you can go into your graveyard and pick a 1 CMC, 2 CMC, and 3 CMC card and put them on the battlefield. You first have to land them there, but either with Surveil or with what is it, Overgrowth? I always get it wrong. The one in Golgari. They're going to land in the battlefield. Now, this is more like a Surveil card because in the case of Golgari, you're going to want to have a high creature count in your graveyard, and this decreases it by 3. I still think it's a pretty good card. Alright, so I'm going to stop right here.